Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
Good evening. It is Tuesday, December 23rd, 2025, the eve of Christmas Eve. This is Faith On with another episode of The Swamp. Regarding the U.S. economy, GDP for the third quarter of 2025 was released today, and we've seen an increase of 4.3%, which is exceeding expectations. The Department of Homeland Security has published a final rule for H-1B visas in order to better protect Americans and their wages. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry announced the deployment of 350 National Guard troops to the New Orleans area, who will be used to maintain a level of safety in the city for the rest of the holiday season. And U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement rolled out Operation Highway Sentinel, and so far they've arrested over 100 illegal immigrants who received CDL licenses. ICE also launched Operation Angel's Honor in honor of Laken Riley and have arrested over 1,000 criminal illegals under the Laken Riley Act. Also, Lee Zelden with the EPA made the announcement that so far this year, 200,000 pounds of illegal pesticides have been seized at our ports of entry. And President Trump hosts the Trump Kennedy Center Honors tonight, which is broadcasted on CBS. And there's a lot more that happened, so we're just going to dive straight on in. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a quick like if you have a second, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the daily updates. And if you leave a comment below, I might just read it on tomorrow's episode. And if you notice all the tabs up here at the top as I go through this video, all of these tabs, all the links that I click on, all of the articles that I read, they will be linked directly in the description below. And I've got this from RNC Research 12 hours ago. The GDP comes in much better than expected. President Trump's economy is hot, hot, hot.
Hold on one moment. I want to break this GDP number at 4.3%, much better than expected. We had expectations of a GDP number coming up at 3.3%. This, of course, is the third quarter GDP, and it's been delayed 2 months because of the shutdown. The GDP that is coming out right now is at 4.3%, much better than expected. Hold on one moment. I want to...
Absolutely phenomenal, man. That's like what, like 30% or over 30% better than what they expected? I'd say that's a little bit better than phenomenal. That's just outright fantastic. Here's another one from Tom Emmer. Under the president's leadership, the U.S. economy is taking off.
The economic report for the third quarter this year came out today. In the third quarter this year, the economy's growing at over 4%. I want to take you back because the incompetent, and some would say purposely incompetent, Congressional Budget Office estimated that when the Working Families Tax Cut Act, also known as the Big Beautiful Bill, when that was signed into law, we would see 1.8 economic growth, 1.8% economic growth, GDP over the next 10 years. In the first quarter, after Donald Trump and Republicans not only passed it, but he signed it into law on July 4th, it's already over 4%. And I'll remind you that in the third quarter of 2020, when Donald Trump was in his first term, the growth was greater than anybody had ever seen in any quarter in our history. It was over 7%. So when Donald Trump talks about tariffs, which was your question, this is what he campaiged on. No one else had ever tried to balance the trade arrangement for Americans, putting Americans first. He's helping to get farmers access to markets they've been denied for years. He's trying to make sure that our people are treated fairly if we're going to have others doing business in this country. And at the same time, the economy's taken off, Jerry.
Oh, yeah, it's taken off. The farmers are doing better. The industries are coming back, manufacturing. Rapid Response 47 from 10 hours ago. NEC Director Kevin Hassett on the GDP report, quote, "It's really a fantastic number, and it's a great Christmas present for the American people. President Trump's trade agenda is working."
Right. Well, it's really a fantastic number, and it's a great Christmas present for the American people.
This dude's always happy.
And, I would say that the headline for me is two things. That I think the big macro trends that we're seeing in these numbers are, first of all, that President Trump's trade agenda is working. And so we got about 1.5% of the growth on 4.3 because we reduced the trade deficit. And then the other thing that I think, which is a big macro thing that we're seeing, is that the artificial intelligence productivity boom is really clearly in the data. And I guess you and I are old enough that we remember back in the 90s when the computer came in, that all of a sudden you had like 4% quarters all the time, one after the other, and it kept surprising people because they thought, oh, computers are everywhere but in the productivity data. But we're seeing it in the data, and we're seeing the same kind of regular surprises for market participants. And so we went back and we looked at every Bloomberg forecast for the main numbers since September and found that on average we outperformed the forecast 94% of the time. So if 94% of Wall Street economists are getting the macro trends wrong, they need to start to think about, hey, maybe Trump's policies are actually way better than we thought. And maybe the fake news that says all these terrible things about Trump policies should reconsider.
Yeah, the tariffs are
and,
awful.
Grab their pencil and redo their economics.
Yeah, the tariffs are destroying the economy. 20 million Americans are just going to lose everything because of Trump's evil, big, bad tariffs. You know what? Old dude reminds me of an episode on House MD. Remember that show House from back in the day? They dealt with a patient who was incapable of getting pissed off. I can't remember what the condition was called, but I don't know. That escapes me. But dude's always happy. Anyway, so House Republicans 12 hours ago, the golden age, 4.3% GDP growth in quarter 3, the Trump effect. And GOP from 11 hours ago, this is a post from President Donald J. Trump's Truth Social account. Q3 GDP came in at 4.3%, blowing past expectations of 3.2%. 60 of 61 Bloomberg economists got it wrong, but Trump and some other geniuses got it right. It's because they're getting all hung up on the tariffs. Because tariffs like back in the 1700s and the 1800s when they implemented tariffs, I guess because the economy was so much different back then, in some way, shape, or form, tariffs were more of a negative than a positive, I guess, even though we're in a completely different economy. We're in a global economy now. So I think they're probably just getting hung up on history, just assuming that, because Trump rolled his tariffs out, the economy's just going to get worse. GDP is just going to fall into the negatives because everything's just going to get expensive. Nobody's going to buy anything anymore. But nope, that ain't happening. The success is due to good government and tariffs. Consumer spending is strong. Net exports are way up. Imports and trade deficits are way down. And there is no inflation. Well, I would push back and say inflation's at 3%. Even if he says inflation is flat, it's not really flat because historically inflation is supposed to be 2% year over year, and it's sitting at 3% now. But, whatever. It's not that big of a deal, I guess, even though it'd be nice to have it down to 2%, if not lower. Because of my tax bill, the great, big, beautiful bill and tariffs investment is setting records. The Trump economic golden age is full steam ahead. You haven't seen anything yet. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. And we're going to move on to the next post from Donald Trump. And he starts with the Trump rule. The financial news today was great. GDP up 4.2% as opposed to the predicted 2.5%, and this despite the downward pressure of the recent Democrat shutdown. But in the modern market, when you have good news, the market stays even or goes down because Wall Street's heads are wired differently than they used to be. In the old days, when there was good news, the market went up. Nowadays, when there is good news, the market goes down because everybody thinks that interest rates will be immediately lifted to take care of potential inflation. That means that essentially we can never have a great market again. Those markets from the time when our nation was building up and becoming great. Strong markets, even phenomenal markets, don't cause inflation. Stupidity does. I want my new Fed chairman to lower interest rates if the market is doing well, not destroy the market for no reason whatsoever. I want to have a market that of the likes of which we haven't had in many decades, a market that goes up on good news and down on bad news, the way it should be and the way it was. Inflation will be taking care of itself, and if it doesn't, we can always raise rates at the appropriate time. But the appropriate time is not to kill rallies, which could lift our nation by 10, 15, and even 20 GDP points in a year, and maybe even more than that. A nation can never be economically great if eggheads are allowed to do everything within their power to destroy the upward slope. We're going to be encouraging the good market to get better rather than make it impossible for it to do so. We're going to see the numbers that are far more natural and far better than they have ever been before. We're going to make America great again. The United States should be rewarded for success, not brought down by it. Anybody that disagrees with me will never be the Fed chairman. That was a hell of a long post. It seems like the older that President Trump gets, the longer his posts get. But then I've got this one. So that kind of flies in the face of what I just said. All right, so from the White House 11 hours ago, they reposted another post from President Trump. The tariffs are responsible for the great USA economic numbers just announced, and they will only get better. Also, no inflation and great national security. Pray for the U.S. Supreme Court, President DJT. And this one from Rapid Response. We got one more. I think that's the last one that I've got from President Trump's Truth. Let's see. It says, I had 2 wonderful telephone calls this morning with Kassym Jomart Tokayev, the president of the Republic of Kazakhstan, and Shavkat Mirziyoyev, the president of the Republic of Uzbekistan. We discussed the importance of bringing peace to ongoing conflicts and increased trade and cooperation between our nations. The relationship with both countries is spectacular. The United States will be hosting the G20 summit next year, and we will be extending invites to both of these leaders to join us as guests at this very important event, which will take place in Miami. All right, so we're going to go ahead and roll on to the next topic. The next item on the agenda from Congresswoman Beth Van Doyne. House Republicans are committed to slashing red tape for American small businesses. Earlier this month, the House passed my bill, the Small Business Regulatory Reduction Act of 2025, which will prohibit the Small Business Administration from taking any regulatory action that would increase compliance costs for small businesses. And she's replying to Kelly Loeffler, who said this week, the Small Business Administration launched a new deregulation strike force to cut Biden-era red tape that drove up costs across key industries. By shrinking government, we're empowering job creators and consumers to thrive.
Talk about what you guys are doing here on the deregulation strike force. It seems like that's kind of leading the way.
Well, you're absolutely right. But look, President Trump says this all the time. Small business is big business. And small business makes up 99% of all businesses across America. I was going to say, isn't it like
way over 90%?
But they have been the ones burdened by excessive regulation under Joe Biden. We know that he had a runaway auto pen that created over $1.9 trillion of excessive regulations himself, but then his regulatory agencies implementing the Green New Deal, putting burdens and burdens on top of small business owners that amounts to about 365 extra hours a year of paperwork. I grew up in a small business. I saw my parents, trying to make ends meet while struggling with the regulatory burdens. So that has only doubled, and so that strike force really gets to the heart of that.
Yeah, the Biden administration insists that pickup trucks get 45 miles to the gallon because they're psychotic and retarded. So anyway, this is a good thing, definitely a good thing to lift a lot of the red tape with small businesses because, yeah, man, they represent 99% of all businesses in America. You think that they would have the least amount of red tape to have to get through. All right, USCIS from 11 hours ago. The Department of Homeland Security is publishing a final new rule for the H-1B work visa program to better protect American workers and wages. For too long, the H-1B program has failed to meet Congress's intent. And this is going to be on U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, uscis.gov. DHS changes process for awarding H-1B work visas to better protect American workers. The Department of Homeland Security is amending regulations governing the H-1B work visa selection process to prioritize the allocation of visas to higher skilled and higher paid aliens to better protect the wages, working conditions, and job opportunities for American workers. The new rule replaces the random lottery for selecting visa recipients with a process that gives greater weight to those with higher skills. Quote, the existing random selection process of H-1B visa registrations was exploited and abused by U.S. employers who are primarily seeking to import foreign workers at lower wages than they would pay American workers, said U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services spokesman Matthew Tregetzer. Quote, the new weighted selection will better serve Congress's intent for the H-1B program and strengthen America's competitiveness by incentivizing American employers to petition for higher paid, higher skilled foreign workers. With these regulatory changes and others in the future, we will continue to update the H-1B program to help American businesses without allowing the abuse that was harming American workers. All right, so continuing, the number of H-1B visas issued annually is limited to just 65,000, with an additional 20,000 for U.S. advanced degree holders. The current random selection process has often been criticized for allowing unscrupulous employers to exploit it by flooding the selection pool with lower-skilled foreign workers paid at low wages to the detriment of the American workforce. To address these concerns, the final rule will implement a weighted selection process that will increase the probability that H-1B visas are allocated to higher-skilled and higher-paid aliens while maintaining the opportunity for employers to secure H-1B workers at all wage levels. This final rule is effective February 27th. 2026 and will be in place for fiscal year 2027 H-1B cap registration season. The rule is another crucial step to strengthen the integrity of the H-1B non-immigrant visa program. It is in line with other key changes the administration has made, such as the presidential proclamation that requires employers to pay an additional $100,000 per visa as a condition of eligibility. As part of the Trump administration's commitment to H-1B reform, we will continue to demand more from both employers and aliens so as not to undercut American workers and to put America first, said Tregesser. For more information, you can see the final rule. This whole article, it'll be linked below, so you can find the link, obviously, where it sits right here at the end of this article. So yeah, man, very good news. I think the $100,000 per visa is a fantastic idea because that basically cuts out all low-wage workers completely. Because, you know, like what company is going to get H-1B visas for workers that are going to make like $10 an hour if they have to pay $100,000 just to get them a H-1B visa? All right, Senate Republicans from earlier today at 1:26 p.m. We are facing the most radical bench of Democrat Senate candidates America has ever seen. From Abdul El-Sayed calling to defund the police to Jasmine Crockett calling ICE slave patrols. Their out-of-touch rhetoric gets more unhinged by the day. So let's hear this out.
Some of the Democrats looking to secure Senate seats next year are under fire for saying some pretty outrageous things. Past comments on defunding the police and recent anti-ICE rhetoric. One Iowa hopeful called fatal police shootings a white problem back in 2020. A Senate candidate in Michigan recently wore an Abolish ICE TV shirt and reportedly deleted a whole trove of defund tweets from his social media. And then, of course, my favorite, the left's Texas firebrand, Jasmine Crockett.
The defund movement seeks to actually bring about healing. Defund is about finally being smart on crime.
As somebody who
it's about being brain dead.
Understands history, when I see ICE, I see slave patrols.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah, she's running for the Senate in Texas. Do you think she's going to win? All right, Senate Republicans, Nebraska corruption scheme. Fake independent Dan Osborne has been using campaign donations to pay himself, his wife's Democrat consulting firm, and his daughter's allowance. In total, the Osborne family has pocketed at least $250,474 from supporters. He can't be trusted. Not only can he not be trusted, he should be immediately arrested if this is actually like ironclad true with evidence. But let's see what this clip's all about. Probably goofy. Obviously goofy. Is that all this is? Oh, come on, dude. Give me a break. No, I'm not going to play a minute of this. I'm not going to put you through that pain. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, so Dan Osborne, I guess he's essentially, illegally received $250,000 from donors. Campaign donations. All right, FBI Director Kash Patel from earlier today, December the 23rd, the National Counterintelligence Task Force. The FBI leads the National Counterintelligence Task Force, the NCITF, which coordinates and leads the whole of government approach to defeat hostile intelligence activities targeting the United States. To combat this threat, the NCITF and the local counterintelligence task forces, CITFs, located in every FBI field office, combine the authorities and capabilities of the U.S. intelligence community, various government agencies, and federal, state, and local law enforcement partners, including the DHS, Commerce, Department of Commerce, Department of Energy, NSF, National Science Foundation, Customs and Border Protection, FAA, also the EPA, and the U.S. DOT. This year, our counterintelligence division has expanded the NCITF's member base and transformed its outreach efforts to publicly highlight national-level campaigns such as the crackdown on biosmuggling. What? Biosmuggling? The FBI, along with our partners, have arrested numerous research scholars from China conspiring to smuggle dangerous biological materials into and out of the United States and exploit our nation's institutions, Yeah, I just talked about this on Friday, maybe last Thursday, Friday. Some Chinese national who was attending, I believe he was attending a university here. He got busted importing E. coli and didn't report it, tried to smuggle it in. In 2025, the FBI and the NCITF have made the United States safer and more secure for the American people. Partnerships are vital. No single agency can mitigate the counterintelligence threat alone. We encourage all federal, state, and local partners to join the NCIT or their local CITF to join the fight to protect our national security. Okay. And by the way, I forgot to include this. Apparently, there's been some new information on the Epstein files that have been released. Apparently, they did another big file dump today. So there have been significant releases of new Jeffrey Epstein documents since Friday, December 19, 2025. The Department of Justice released multiple additional batches over the weekend and a major batch on Tuesday, December 23rd, 2025, totaling nearly 30,000 new pages of files. So yeah, rolling basis, so on and so forth. So this is at justice.gov/Epstein. That's where you can find the quote-unquote Epstein library. This is where the Department of Justice is dumping everything related to Jeffrey Epstein and the documents under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which President Trump signed into law a little over a month ago. I believe it was on November 19th. So I believe it's going to be in here under DOJ disclosures and Epstein Files Transparency Act. That's probably where it's going to be. So data set 1, data set 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's all of these. Let's see what data set 2 looks like, just for instance. Yeah, see, these are all going to be documents, PDFs. Let me just click on a random one. Okay, so images. Lots and lots of images. So there's that. All right, so let me go back. I'm not going to dig through a lot of this because I got a lot of stuff to get through in this episode. Definitely something that I should do in addition to my daily show. Just digging through this, which I did over the weekend. I did go through some of the Epstein stuff over the weekend. Let's see. So that's the Transparency Act. So they've got the court records, which I'm not sure if they've added to it. It'd be nice if they put a date next to these. These actually, yeah, it actually looks like there has been more added to this list, perhaps. So, but anyway, it's all going to be buried in here somewhere. Court records, the disclosures, also the Freedom of Information Act, and the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform disclosures. Not sure if there's, it doesn't look like there's specific Epstein documents in here, but Freedom of Information Act. Let's see. From the FBI, Customs and Border Protection, Federal Bureau of Prisons. So yeah, here we go. This is all files from the FBI, and you can find this on justice.gov/Epstein. You could dig through it. So just putting that out there. Mainstream media, if anything, if any kind of bombshell, newsworthy material got dropped today in the 30,000 pages that was released, I'm sure they're going to be talking about it. I didn't see anything, at least not in the last like 2-3 hours before I started recording this episode. So anyway, I'm sure there's going to be more to come with that. So anyway, moving on to FBI Director Kash Patel again from today. The FBI executed a massive 2-week takedown of child sex predators. All 56 field offices participated and coordinated with state and local partners. 155 federal arrests, 138 state arrests, and 205 innocent victims identified or located. This built on the already successful Restore Justice op that FBI did in May and Enduring Justice, which happened in August. And they are not letting up. Operation Relentless Justice. Let's see. Operation Relentless Justice was a coordinated enforcement effort to identify, track, and arrest child sex predators across the country, building on the success of Operation Restore Justice in May and Operation Enduring Justice of August. And so this current operation looks like it ran from December 3rd to December 17th. And they've got the stats there, a couple of images, and so on. So FBI is finally doing some good work. The Office of the DNI, a radical Islamist terrorist shot 2 National Guardsmen over Thanksgiving. A radical Islamist terrorist shot and killed 15 people at a Hanukkah celebration in Australia last week. A radical Islamist terrorist deliberately drove his pickup truck through a crowd celebrating New Year's in New Orleans, killing 14 people. Radical Islamist terrorists are slaughtering Christians in Nigeria every single day. Islamist ideology fuels the likes of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Al-Shabaab, Hamas, and Boko Haram. And these are only a few recent examples of the massive threat to human life posed by this ideology. When you chase headlines and deny the truth about your state's self-proclaimed capital of Palestine, DNI Gabbard is calling out radical Islamist ideology for the threat that it poses to Americans and, frankly, the whole world. And this is from New York Post. Patterson mayor calls in New Jersey city capital of Palestine in Ramadan kickoff remarks. Fourth holiest city in the world. Wow, good grief. So anyway, so the DNI, the office of the DNI, they are responding to Cory Booker, Senator Cory Booker from December 22nd. Patterson is one of New Jersey's oldest cities and has always embodied the best American values, industry, perseverance, and diversity. Tulsi Gabbard's dangerous attempt to sow fear and pit people against each other and smear the Muslim Americans of Patterson, New Jersey is dishonest, cruel, and un-American. It endangers the entire community. In New Jersey, we know our state's diversity and our strength, and we stand up for our own. Okay. And of course, he got ratioed. So if you notice, 516 likes that he got for that post and almost 900 comments for that post, which is considered a ratio. When you get more comments than you get likes, typically like 99% of the time, the majority of people who read what you're posting, they have strong dislike for what you're saying. That's basically a ratio in a nutshell. Okay, so moving on to Secretary Lori Chavez de Raymer. We can feed kids without creating a loophole for fraud in Minnesota. Ilhan allowed the American taxpayer to be defrauded, and she will be held responsible for her actions. And responding to Paul A. Cispula, Rep. Ilhan Omar, Democrat of Minnesota, says she doesn't regret sponsoring the Meals Act that was defrauded in Minnesota for $250 million. She said it helped feed kids. Like what, like 1,000? And they were supposed to feed like millions of meals. If I'm thinking of the right program, it was something like 2 or 3 million meals during COVID, and it only fed like 1,300. And like that was it. It was like 99.99% of the money was just fraudulently stolen. So anyway, you can help feed kids without creating an easy opportunity for fraud. Ilhan is incompetent. So here's a quick clip of Ilhan Omar.
Do you regret pushing forward that bill, the Meals Act? Do you think it led to the fraud?
Absolutely not. It did help feed kids.
Yikes. I think it created 1,300 meals when it was supposed to create literally millions and millions of meals. It didn't just help feed kids. It fed a lot of Somali terrorists that are in Somalia because millions of dollars was shipped out there thanks to the U.S. taxpayer and people like Ilhan Omar and Governor Tim Walz. Kelly Loeffler, 9 hours ago. Today, I informed Governor Tim Walz that the SBA, the Small Business Administration, is halting $5.5 million in annual funding to Minnesota pending further review. This action follows alarming findings. Individuals indicted in the $1 billion Somali fraud scheme also received at least $3 million in PPP loans. I believe that's Payment Protection Program. It was in the COVID era. And SBA has since identified 13,600 additional PPP loans in Minnesota, totaling $430 million suspected as fraudulent. With dozens of investigations underway, the conclusion is unavoidable. Minnesota cannot be trusted to administer federal tax dollars. Yeah, period. Its socialist welfare system has enabled fraud at industrial scale at the expense of honest Americans, and these are the consequences. And if Democrats were to have taken over the White House and Congress last November, you really think that we'd be hearing a peep about this? Hell no, we wouldn't. It would only be getting worse and worse. And the U.S. Department of Labor, 10 hours ago, any fraud in our unemployment system will not be tolerated. Our strike team will get to the bottom of alleged welfare fraud being committed by TPS, Somalis, and other groups in Minnesota.
Digging deeper tonight into what's being termed a targeted review of potential fraud in Minnesota's unemployment insurance program. It's the latest federal probe into allegations of financial wrongdoing, this one by the U.S. Department of Labor. The Secretary of Labor, writing in a letter sent to the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, quote, "I am appalled at what we are hearing about potential fraud coming from numerous benefits programs in Minnesota. If there has been any related abuse of our UI systems, it will not be tolerated," end quote. UI, by the way, is a reference to unemployment insurance. The Labor Secretary
they've been
says the
abusing the
department's
shit out of that.
Chicago regional office has started a review of its benefit payment control operations to ensure no fraud is identified in unemployment insurance programs, including those during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okie dokie. That is Minnesota for you. And we'll roll on to the next thing. Peter Navarro, Mexico. So we're moving on to Mexico. Tariffs. They just imposed tariffs of up to 50% on Chinese imports. President Trump's tariff strategy is becoming the global template. So it's not just the United States imposing tariffs against China. It's Mexico, too. And that's actually pretty big news because there's been a huge uptick in not only Chinese goods being shipped into Mexico, but also a lot of Chinese citizens have been moving into Mexico. And apparently it's bizarre. There's like areas of Mexico, whether if it's like cities or villages or towns or whatever. Apparently there's a whole bunch of Chinese people living there, like natural born Mexican Chinese who speak Spanish. Like they don't speak Chinese, they speak Spanish, and that just sounds bizarre to me. But apparently that's been happening in Mexico for a while now.
They said President Trump was acting alone on tariffs. Then Mexico stepped in. And suddenly, the Trump trade model is becoming the world's playbook. Mexico just imposed tariffs of up to 50% on Chinese imports, autos, steel, plastics, and textiles. This wasn't symbolic. It was strategic. Mexico is closing the back door to Chinese dumping into North America. When Trump walled off the U.S. market, China tried flooding everyone else. Mexico just said, not here. Europe sees what's coming next. That's why Brussels is already tightening defenses against Chinese EVs and steel. The real problem isn't tariffs. It's China's economic model. Overproduce, underconsume,
low-wage workers,
dump the excess.
over-consumerism.
The solution isn't more dumping. It's China building a real safety net so its workers can spend. Until then, Trump's tariff strategy isn't isolated. It's the global template. Visit the new Peter.
Absolutely, man. That's great to hear. I wasn't aware of that other countries are tightening broadening their tariffs against China. Definitely a good thing because, yeah, it makes perfect sense. If we're closing the door against China trade, at least in part, yeah, they're going to have an oversupply of goods. They're going to try to dump it somewhere else. Or they're going to try to get around our tariffs by dumping their goods into a country like Mexico, and then they can try to relabel it and pretend that those goods were, in fact, manufactured in Mexico, and they'll try to get them into the U.S. without having to deal with the steeper tariffs that we put against China. All right, House Homeland GOP. This is back on yesterday at 2:06, so just a little bit over 24 hours ago. Thanks to historic investment in border security through the One Big Beautiful Bill, nationwide encounters continued to drop with the start of fiscal year 2026, beating the previous low by 28%. Damn. Read more from Rep. Garbarino, Rep. Michael Guest on the latest border wins, and that'll be at this link, which let's see where it ends up taking us. Homeland.house.gov. So they've got some details there. So this is the border brief from U.S. House Committee on Homeland Security. Christmas comes early as November border encounters cool to a new record low. November fiscal year 2026 nationwide encounters, I'm assuming that includes Canada, 30,375. And November from fiscal year 2025 was at 124,972. And the year before that, in 2024, 308,605 nationwide encounters. So, matter of fact, I came across this. It was like a couple of weeks ago. This is the same issue that they had with this flyer last time. Fiscal year 2026 nationwide encounter. I think they've got all this offset by year. They had that problem with the last flyer too. I believe it's supposed to say 2025, 24, and 23. So I guess I could be wrong. Maybe I'm living in the past, but I'm pretty sure that we're still in the year 2025. So I would just take that, that suggestion that this should be 25, 24, and the one year on the right being 23. So anyway, and then there's some bullet points where they get into the data and the statistics with regard to the border brief. And if you want to, oh shit, where did it go, man? Wow, that scrolled me way the hell down. Why did it take me so far down? All right, that was crazy. Okay, so I'll just repost that since there's a lot of info on there. And there's a direct link to my profile in the description below. It takes you directly to my X profile, or you can go to @Homeland GOP. And like I said, it was yesterday at 2:06 p.m. and you can find it that way. All right, Department of State, 10 hours ago, President Trump has delivered a strong response to the mass migration crisis. Encounters on the southern border have plummeted 99% since January, and the United States signed 7 safe third country agreements to expedite deportations. Let's go. Amen. And we're rolling on to CBP. The CBP Home app is your chance to go home for the holidays with an updated $3,000 stipend. If you're in the United States illegally, take this chance to leave voluntarily. Use it now and self-deport, or you will be found and deported with 0 chance of returning. CBP Home app information. I also, probably the exact same post I shared on yesterday's Swamp episode, probably coming from the same, maybe it was Immigration and Customs Enforcement who posted it yesterday. In my opinion, the $3,000, obviously that's taxpayer money. That's money that we're stuck. We, the taxpayers, have to be stuck paying for that because of Biden and Kamala Harris's failures, the Democrats' failures. So I think that $3,000 for every illegal who takes them up on that offer should be paid for by sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. Let them pay for it because they're the ones who were opening up their arms for all these illegals to come flooding in. And moving on to Defiant L's. J.B. Pritzker says when Democrats win, they will hold ICE agents accountable. It says there is an Illinois Accountability Commission that is now gathering evidence for after. And here's a quick video of the governor of Illinois.
It's been awful for people, and we're doing everything we can. I think we've succeeded in many ways, but we can't stop it until we win the Congress back. That's the beginning of stopping it, at least doing hearings and making sure that we're bringing to light all the things they're doing. We have an Illinois Accountability Commission that just had its first hearing today. And that hearing was testimony, video, experts, and we're basically gathering evidence because we are going to hold these people accountable when we can.
Independent experts or Democrat, quote unquote, experts. I mean, look, video is one thing, video doesn't lie, but I'm sure most of the video, if not all of the video that they're showing in these commission hearings are going to be skewed. They're going to be manipulated. They're going to be chopping out a lot of parts of the video, or they're just going to steer the narrative in the direction that they want the narrative to go, even though, you could just watch for your own eyes and see how it actually plays out. But anyway, yeah, so I'm sure they're going to be talking a lot about, innocent American citizens are being arrested. Yeah, because they're obstructing and they're assaulting officers. Okay, so anyway, moving on, Homeland Security. This year, USCIS has issued a record-breaking 196,000 notices to appear to begin removal proceedings. This includes 182 aliens who were confirmed or suspected national security risks. Under President Trump's Secretary Noem, the security of Americans will always come first. And that's Secretary Kristi Noem with Homeland Security. And we've got this from Fox News. Got a little bit of extra info on this. And it starts here. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, revealed new figures detailing the results of the Trump administration's first year of cracking down on illegal immigration and removing criminal migrants from the country. The agency, which handles lawful immigration under the umbrella of Secretary Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security, told Fox that since President Donald Trump's inauguration, USCIS has referred more than 14,000 immigration cases to ICE for national security and fraud concerns, with 182 being confirmed or suspected to be national security risks. USCIS also told Fox that the agency's Fraud Detection and National Security Directorate, FDNS, completed 19,300 fraud cases and identified fraud in roughly 65% of reviewed cases. Additionally, FDNS completed more than 6,500 site visits and conducted 19,500 social media checks for potential immigrants' online posts. USCIS has taken an America First approach, restoring order, security, integrity, and accountability to America's immigration system, ensuring that it serves the nation's interests and protects and prioritizes Americans over foreign nationals. USCIS Director Joseph B. Edlow told Fox News Digital in a statement. And we're going to roll on to Tricia McLaughlin. Okay. So no. All right, here. Let me start with this first. So Timothy Snyder, people are dying inside American concentration camps right now. Yeah, that's not hyperbolic at all. So EPSLA, ELPASO, it's El Paso Times. I was up here trying to read the URL. My dumbass should have just been reading the freaking title of the paper. Exclusive 911 calls from migrant detention center highlight dire conditions. And okay, so immigrants held at Camp East Montana Detention Center in El Paso regularly face injury, life-threatening illnesses, and acute mental health crises, according to a review 911 emergency calls placed at the nation's largest ICE immigration lockup. So what are they suggesting? That ICE agents are just like dumping bioweapons, spilling diseases all over them, and like the face injuries. Not sure what that's all about. Probably because illegals are getting into fights with other illegals. And acute mental health. Yeah, that's probably of no surprise with everything that illegals have been through. A lot of them migrating all the way up here, getting thrown into just this like chaotic sanctuary city, sanctuary state government programs and systems that probably have them like cluttered together, hundreds to a room. And they've probably been living like that for the past 2, 3, 4 years. I'm sure their mental health probably is a little crazy. The emergency call log data in part reads, 22-year-old male suicide attempt. 89-year-old female chest pain, 19-year-old male fall from a bunk. I mean, like, dude, this is like all normal, like typically normal stuff that you would get in a detention facility. 32-year-old male kidney stone. Oh my God, the ICE agents are just devastating, forcing kidney stones upon them now. 54-year-old female fainted. Okay, 47-year-old male low blood pressure and swelling of legs. Dude, this ain't holding a lot of weight, El Paso Times. I mean, come on now. But anyway. I will absolutely link this below. And so they've got all this other stuff, what human beings go through, because there's going to be some older people, there's going to be some younger people, like how human beings, sometimes they get sick, sometimes they get plagued with diseases and ailments, and sometimes they toss and turn a little too much while they're sleeping and they fall out of their bunk, things like that. So anyway, so let's get the response from Tricia McLaughlin. No, ICE detention facilities have higher standards than most U.S. prisons that hold U.S. citizens. I would think so, because they're not U.S. citizens. I mean, in no way, shape, or form is the government going to treat them like subhumans. That's obviously very illegal. If anything, they would have a higher standard for them, because they're, as far as the federal government's concerned, I would say that they're technically visitors to the United States. But anyway, even though that they are technically criminals as well, they're not citizens of the U.S. So anyway, no lawbreakers in the history of human civilization have been treated better than illegal aliens in the United States. All detainees are provided with meals certified by dietitians and comprehensive medical care, often the best health care that many aliens have received in their entire lives. I'm probably guaranteeing that too. And by the way, we are offering those in our country illegally $3,000 and a free flight home. Get a grip. Yeah, especially reading all that nonsense, like they were getting 911 calls for just, I mean, I wouldn't say a suicide attempt is nonsense. That's definitely not nonsense. But that doesn't fall into the category of extremely rare and inhumane and torturous treatment. No, come on. All right, so anyway, Governor Jeff Landry breaking. Tonight, I am announcing 350 National Guard troops will be deployed to New Orleans. These citizen soldiers will help ensure safety during the busiest season in the city. We owe them all a debt of gratitude for their commitment to our state and nation. I also want to thank President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth for putting Americans and their safety first.
Address something with you. Just moments ago, we had the Supreme Court block an effort by the Trump administration to deploy National Guard troops in Illinois.
Yeah,
namely
I read that.
in Chicago. But yet, as you have increased crackdowns on illegal aliens and crime in your state, you have an announcement.
Yes, I want to thank President Trump. He is fulfilling his commitment. Him and Secretary of War Hegseth are sending the National Guard back into Louisiana, into New Orleans. They will be there for New Year's Eve, and they're going to be there for a deployment through February, which we desperately need. Look, we know how to make cities safe, and the National Guard complements cities that are having high crime problems. Look at what the president's done in Washington, D.C. When he wanted to send the National Guard into Washington, D.C., Louisiana was one of the first to raise his hand and say, our troops will go there and help you. And the city is so much better. They're going to be here in New Orleans. It's going to help us further crack down on the violence here in the city of New Orleans and elsewhere around Louisiana. And so a big shout out to both of them. Thank you.
All right, some breaking news there. Governor Jeff Landry, thank you very much, and please get back to us on how Greenland goes. Fascinating stuff.
All right, well, there you go. That's in New Orleans. And so, yeah, the U.S. Supreme Court blocked Trump's push to deploy National Guard into Illinois. I did come across a simple post from someone. I didn't see a link to any articles or anything like that, but I will jump over here to Grok real quick and plug this in. Why did the Supreme Court not allow the National Guard into Illinois? And let's see if anything comes out of this. So on December 23rd, today, the U.S. Supreme Court denied President Trump's request to lift lower court injunctions blocking the deployment of federalized National Guard troops in Illinois, primarily Chicago. The key reason: the administration failed to show legal authority under the invoked statute, Title 10, for using the military, including the National Guard, to enforce immigration laws and protect ICE agents amid protests. Specifically, the law allows calling up the Guard only when the president is unable with the regular forces, interpreted as active duty U.S. military, not civilian agencies or the Guard itself, to execute federal laws, and only in exceptional circumstances where the military could lawfully perform domestic law enforcement, generally barred by the Posse Comitatus Act. The court ruled that at this stage, no such authority exists for this situation, leaving the block in place while litigation continues. This was a preliminary 6-3 decision on the emergency docket. Well, there you go. So that's why it was blocked. So sounds like maybe it's not game over just yet. Maybe they may need to revisit that, I guess, if the protesting gets further out of hand, maybe. Because I believe it's been at least a few weeks, actually, since I've seen any footage of protests happening outside the ICE facility in Chicago. But I believe the Illinois police the Chicago Police Department, or maybe it was the Illinois State Police, they actually showed up and started helping out ICE and arresting people who were engaging in obstruction and assaults. So that may be one of the reasons why they decided not to allow the National Guard to come in. I don't know if we're 100% sure on that. So anyway, so U.S. DOT rapid response. The president gave Secretary Sean Duffy the directive to make our roads safe again. Secretary Noem is helping get illegals out of the country, and the U.S. Department of Transportation is making sure they are not driving big rigs on American roads.
Now we understand ICE has arrested 101 illegal truck drivers in California. They seem to be ignoring you. As a illegal trucker from China is blamed for a deadly crash earlier this month, and an illegal trucker accused in a fatal Washington crash gets released on, I think by mistake, on a $100,000 bond. Meanwhile, you're threatening a $24 million funding rescission to Colorado because they don't seem to be taking this seriously.
Evidently, they're not.
So President Trump has said, make aviation and make our roads safer than the previous 4 years. He's given us that directive. I'm delighted that Secretary Noem is helpful on this front. Again, she's working on getting illegals out of trucks and out of the country, as well as everyone who's here illegally out of the country. But again, these are simple rules. These rules are not made up by the Trump administration. I didn't make them up. These are rules that are set up to make sure our roads are safe. And so if you can't speak English, if you haven't gone through the proper training courses, you shouldn't be behind the wheel of a big rig.
English, MFer, do you speak it? Well, then you know what I'm saying. All right, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Fairfax County's statement shows that they either don't understand the law or are trying to deceive the public. ICE officers don't need a judicial warrant to pick up a criminal illegal alien from a jail. That's what ICE detainers are for.
This one's from El Salvador. He was in custody on a Tuesday of malicious wounding and brandishing firearms, but then local police released him. There he is, young man. They did. The next day, on Wednesday, there's a murder scene, and they arrest him again. He's got a lengthy record, Todd, at least 7 crimes he's accused of. And then he's released within hours before, officials say that he got up into a mess again. This is the quote from the Fairfax County Sheriff's Office. This is what they're telling us. In this instance, ICE was aware of Morales-Ortiz's incarceration and elected not to seek a judicial warrant to ensure that he remained in custody accordingly and consistent with our policies and the law. Once the court issued an order dismissing the cases, Mr. Morales-Ortiz was released. I mean, it sounds like they're throwing this back on you guys, on ICE.
Well, of course they are. They don't want to take accountability.
The whole problem is, Aisha, unfortunately, they don't understand immigration law, right? We don't need a judicial warrant. our ICE detainer is just enough for them to hold him and turn him over to us. But instead, they want to go ahead and leave him to sign a sanctuary policies, and now he allegedly committed another murder. So we have this individual.
Blood's on their hands.
They already arrested him for brandishing a firearm. So he was already arrested for aggravated assault. So why they would want to release him anyways with no bond or no restrictions is just ridiculous. And then he's found at another murder scene the next day. Actually, that day, the clinicians at Fairfax County deemed him a public safety risk, and they were out looking for him because they realized that was a mistake to release him. Had they done that, he would have already been in ICE custody had they turned him over.
Absolutely.
So instead, here we have another instance of an American losing their lives because of sanctuary policies.
Absolutely bullshit. And the family of the individual that he murdered, well, allegedly murdered, technically speaking, they ought to, and I'm sure they will, sue the shit out of the city or the state or both, and they will win. They absolutely should win, and they probably will win, because it was their policies that allowed their loved one to get murdered. And U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Oh, wait, by the way, there's no amount of money that's going to really do any justice. I mean, it really shouldn't even come down to that to begin with. This is just absolutely ridiculous that this whole thing is happening. And they just don't learn their lesson. This isn't the first guy who's done this. This is probably like the 1754th guy that's actually done this. That's committed a heinous, violent, if not full-on murder, different crimes, after being allowed to be released because they didn't want to hand them over to ICE because we want to be sanctuary state. And another one from ICE. While Massachusetts politicians were busy grandstanding to protect criminal illegal aliens, ICE's ERO Boston arrested a criminal illegal alien child erhist. And these are kinds of monsters Massachusetts politicians like Boston Mayor Wu are protecting with its sanctuary policies. And let's see, Anthony Araújo of Brazil, or Araújo, who ICE Boston arrested on December 19th, has a criminal history that includes convictions for child R, indecent assault and battery on a young child, and possessing child S abuse material. And there's the asshole right there. The whole sanctuary state's protecting these people. They're protecting them. They're not protecting you. They're not protecting the citizens of Massachusetts, those who actually pay their salaries in the form of tax money. No, they're not covering for them. They're covering for this guy. All right, so another one from ICE, Operation Highway Sentinel. Governor Newsom's sanctuary state policies won't stop ICE and our federal partners from enforcing federal immigration law. Over 100 criminal illegal alien CDL holders have been arrested. Many came from India, Mexico, Colombia, Uzbekistan, Ukraine, Nicaragua, Russia, Georgia, Venezuela, El Salvador, and Honduras. American roads made safe for American families this Christmas season. And they probably have the article linked, and they do, so I will just link that in the description. Let me just see what it starts with. foxnews.com/politics/ICE arrests 100 illegal ... Because down in the description of the links in my YouTube description, for whatever reason, YouTube doesn't display the entire link. It only shows like the first 100 characters. So if I'm not going to read the article, at least I like to try to show that, because there's more than one Fox News article down there. All right, moving on to the next topic. Secretary Sean Duffy from 11 hours ago. So let me get this straight, New York Times. They're outraged that the Trump administration, wait for it, followed the law by taking illegal truck drivers off the road. We didn't expect them to give us fair coverage, but focusing on the rights of non-citizens over the safety of Americans while ignoring the victims of these senseless truck accidents is indefensible. And these are the innocent Americans that have been killed by illegals driving semi-trucks who didn't know what the hell they were doing. And this is from Curtis Lee from yesterday. Araj Singh is one of tens of thousands of Sikh truck drivers from India who transport loads across the United States. 2 high-profile crashes in a Trump administration crackdown have brought worry and wariness to the Sikh immigrant community. Well, if they're here illegally, good. That's exactly what they need. They need to be afraid. What they need to do is just turn in their CDLs right the fuck now. Stop driving your semi-trucks, go straight to your local driver's or license branch or what have you, and go turn it in. And this is the New York Times article that it was Secretary Sean Duffy, right? Yeah. Secretary Sean Duffy was talking about it. So New York Times, long-haul trucking was a refuge for Sikh immigrants until now. I have a feeling I'm going to get paywalled down here, so let me just take a look. Well, maybe not. Shared with you by a Times subscriber. Oh, okay. All right, well, that works. That'd be nice if they did that for every politician, for every news publication. That'd be great. Anyway, the phone vibrated just as Arash Singh curled onto a mattress in the sleeper cab of his semi-truck parked in a lot off Interstate 5 in Northern California. As on most evenings, his parents were calling it the start of the day in a tiny village in Punjab, India. Blah, 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 blah. Insurance 25-year-old long given himself most stressful days on the road as an immigrant driver. There is plenty you always must think about. Blah, blah, blah. He has to have more on his mind these days than he'd like. So basically, I mean, all it's really going to talk about is the two high-profile cases, and now all of these innocent immigrants who really don't know how to read English, probably don't know how to speak English for the most part. They're out there driving semi-trucks. Commercial driver's licenses are issued by states, and Mr. Duffy threatened to withhold $160 million highway funds. Well, yeah, because they oversee the CDL license issuances. They oversee CDLs. The Department of Transportation does. So, all right. Anyway, this is a hell of a long read. Obviously, the New York Times, they got a lot to say because I'm sure some progressive, middle-aged progressive lady probably wrote this, and they probably get paid like 10 cents per word. So, they're going to hold nothing back in this article. Okie dokie. Moving on. Secretary Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security. In honor of Laken Riley, ICE launched Operation Angel's Honor in the last 2 weeks alone, arresting more than 1,000 criminal illegal aliens under the authority of the Laken Riley Act. President Trump has empowered us to arrest and remove the millions of violent criminal illegal aliens unleashed on the United States by the previous administration. Now these criminals will face justice and be removed from our country. We can never bring Laken back, but we can do everything in our power to bring these heinous criminals to justice. I'm so proud of our brave men and women of ICE have done to remove criminals from America's streets. And then rolling on to U.S. DOT rapid response. Secretary Duffy on states improperly issuing CDLs. Colorado is slow walking us. They aren't pulling back licenses. In New York, 53% of non-domiciled CDLs were issued illegally. We aren't going to tolerate it. We're looking out for the American people.
Colorado, they're slow walking us. They're basically not pulling back licenses, so we threaten to say, well, we're going to pull back your money if you don't pull back licenses. 43%, Brian, of what's called a non-domiciled CDL. It's a foreigner that comes into the country and gets a driver's license.
Right.
In New York, 53% of those were issued illegally. And so, again, we're not going to tolerate it. These governors, look out for the American people who are, this Christmas season, they're on the road, they're traveling with their families, they're going to see their loved ones. Make sure you keep them safe. Colorado.
Yeah, man, it's risky. It's definitely risky. Keep your head on a swivel. All right, so U.S. DOT rapid response. Colorado faces $24 million federal funding cut over CDL response because that video clip was only about less than 30 seconds. So I figured I would link this as well since they go over some more details. And from Denver, the head of the U.S. Department of Transportation threatened December 22nd to withhold $24 million in federal funding from the state of Colorado for what he described as a slow response to a major violation of federal commercial driver's license regulations. It's regulated by the federal government, not by the state level. Transportation Secretary Duffy pointed to a nationwide audit conducted in October that found about 22% of the CDLs doled out by the Colorado to immigrants were done so illegally, many to Mexican nationals, a practice that's prohibited under federal law. Duffy accused Colorado of slow walking the required purge of these licenses. He said the state has failed to complete a full audit, provide a complete accounting of affected drivers, or revoke the invalid credentials despite being notified of non-compliance. Colorado Governor Jared Polis called it a case of crossed wires bullshit, saying that if Duffy had reached out, he would know that the state has finished the investigation. We are conducting a final review of the findings, with letters likely going out this week to CDL holders whose credentials were improperly issued. Well, you better get on it faster. He said in a statement that the state is working quickly to revoke these licenses. All right, well, show the proof. In addition to Duffy's ultimatum, he also noted that the Transportation Department has the authority to decertify Colorado's entire CDL program if the state doesn't act swiftly, which he did with California. He threatened to do exactly that to California, and California immediately revoked, I think it was 14,000 CDL licenses, because, yeah, they don't want to play around with that. Every day that goes by is another day unqualified, unvetted foreign truckers are jeopardizing the safety of you and your family, Duffy said. Polis, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Polis, I'm assuming, a two-term Democrat, has been at odds with the Trump administration in recent months. Tensions flared as recently as this past weekend when the Trump administration denied disaster declaration requests following wildfires and flooding earlier this year. Last week, Polis also criticized the administration's plans to dismantle a federal climate research lab located in the state. Colorado's Division of Motor Vehicles has paused the issuance and renewal of term-limited, non-domiciled CDLs and commercial learners permits indefinitely, the Denver Post reported last week. This pause is expected to remain in place pending an audit of all such licenses to ensure compliance with federal regulations. Duffy has threatened federal highway funding for other states, too, in his effort to make sure truck drivers and bus drivers are qualified to either haul passengers or 80,000 pounds of cargo down the highway. And it goes on New York, California, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and so on and so forth. And rolling to Derek Evans. Breaking. DOT Secretary Sean Duffy is threatening to cut $25 million from Colorado because they were refusing to revoke the CDLs from illegals. Okay, yeah, so we already saw that video clip, I think. Oh, no, maybe we didn't. Here, let's give this a quick watch. Also less than 30 seconds.
Colorado of slow walking the purge of illegal CDLs. Duffy saying every day that goes by is another day unqualified, unvetted foreign truckers are jeopardizing the safety of you and your family. He's threatening to pull $24 million in highway funds from Colorado if the state does not act quickly. Back to you guys.
All right. Well, according to the governor of Colorado, they're on it and they're working as hard as they can to get him revoked. According to him, they're sending out letters and they're getting it worked out. Okay, DEA El Paso. In case you missed it, Public Information Officer Carlos Briano recently spoke with Rishi Oza, KVIA. Is this, okay, it's a news outlet. And another handle from ABC 7 News about the recently seized purple fentanyl containing xylazine. And this is on kvia.com. And yeah, man, purple fentanyl. They got purple fentanyl out now. Maybe that's not new. It's the first time I'm seeing it. All right. El Paso's DEA said they found purple fentanyl with xylazine, a type of animal tranquilizer. This type of opioid has been found in the country before. Yeah. I'm trying to think. It was in, I think it was in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, maybe. I believe it. I think that's the area where it was running rampant for a while, like most of the fentanyl that they were seizing had that stuff laced in it. Anyway, so this type of opioid's been found in the country before, but the DEA says this is the first time they found it in this region. It's 50 times more powerful than heroin, and that's fentanyl, of course. 100 times more powerful than morphine. Only 2 milligrams could potentially kill you, but now you add an animal tranquilizer, said Carlos Briano, Public Information Officer for the El Paso DEA. They seized 16 kilograms of the fentanyl. He said it's more potent than other types of fentanyl because the tranquilizer makes the high much more potent and makes it harder to get out of an overdose. ABC 7 spoke with the El Paso Fire Department as well, who agreed with Briano. They said from the beginning of 2025 until November, there were 79 overdoses across the city, and just about every part of town is seeing them. The animal tranquilizers is new, said Captain Jeffrey Park. They're always looking for new ways to put fentanyl into different things. We're finding that patients are needing more than one dose of Narcan, even more than that, to be able to get them out of it. The DEA has more information about what new things they have found with fentanyl, and you can find the information here, which, again, this whole article is going to be linked. If you or a loved one suffering from an opioid addiction, call the numbers, your local, a crisis hotline, and so on. All right, purple fentanyl. And here's another in case you missed it. Phoenix Division Special Agent in Charge Sherry Oz met with Fox 10 Phoenix regarding our call to action, hashtag Fentanyl Free America, and how a record amount of fentanyl powder has passed through Arizona this year. Join the fight. And we'll take a look at this.
A record number of fentanyl busts seized this year by the Phoenix Division of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration.
The DEA says the Sinaloa cartel uses Arizona as a gateway for distributing drugs across the U.S. Fox 10's Kenzie Beach got an exclusive look at the work of the Phoenix lab of the DEA. She has more on the 2025 drug seizures here in Arizona.
This lab has seen a record number of fentanyl powder seizures, a 79% increase since 2024. The DEA tells me it's the largest number of fentanyl powder that they've seen come
79% increase.
So Arizona is the key state in the war against drugs. The cartels are using Arizona to bring mass amounts of fentanyl,
big beautiful wall,
fentanyl pills, cocaine, methamphetamine into the United States.
The DEA says it's primarily the Sinaloa cartel moving fentanyl through Arizona, and they've shifted from fentanyl pills to fentanyl powder.
In 30 years of law enforcement, I've never been afraid of a drug. I'm terrified of fentanyl. Terrified, because it is just a minuscule amount and your whole life is different. The powder is a little more...
Or your whole life is gone.
Terrifying for me because it can be pressed or put into anything.
Sherry Oz spent the last 6 years as the special agent in charge of the Phoenix Field Division, now as the assistant administrator for the Drug Enforcement Administration. The goal is to infiltrate the cartel's supply chain.
A cartel that is really focused on greed, go after their money. So we're going through money laundering, Bitcoin, dark web.
We walked through the DEA's Phoenix Division Crime Lab, where they test all the drugs seized in real time. In a matter of minutes, tests show positive and negative traces of fentanyl in the makeup of the drug.
We have about a 2-week lead time before the drugs that we seize here show up through the rest of the United States.
As of December 1st,
the
U.S. DEA has seized 45 million fentanyl pills and over 9,000 pounds of fentanyl powder. In Arizona, 60% of all drugs seized in the U.S.
Those cartels, forewarned, because we're coming. We're coming like we've never come before.
Yep, we're coming to get you.
President Trump has now declared fentanyl as a weapon.
Yep, Trump administration declared fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, which apparently gives more broad authority to combat the source of it. And not sure what that's going to look like. Not sure if we're going to stage like a full-on military invasion of the cartels. I don't think that we're probably going to take it that far, but I mean, a lot of people might be okay with that. But anyway, so Congresswoman Erin Huchin from 13 hours ago, Christmas is brighter when our communities are safe. The HALT Fentanyl Act permanently schedules fentanyl-related substances and helps law enforcement keep these deadly drugs off our streets. Wait, that was loud.
We're fighting back against fentanyl. The HALT Fentanyl Act permanently schedules these deadly drugs and gives law enforcement the tools they need to keep our families safe.
And this was your wake-up message. My apologies. I didn't realize the volume was up. All right. So from Department of State, Secretary Rubio on the urgency of implementing President Trump's peace plan in Gaza. So we're shifting away from the fentanyl and getting into Gaza.
Signing a piece of paper. It's actually complying with it. And compliance oftentimes requires, in many cases, in most cases, requires daily, constant follow-up and nurturing. So that is why we are in such a hurry, and I say as a priority, to get to this point where we have the stabilization force in place, overseen by the Board of Peace, and ultimately a Palestinian technocratic entity that can increase in its capability to provide governance. The stronger they are, the weaker Hamas will be. The weaker Hamas will be.
Okay, well, I mean, did they disarm? I'm not sure if I heard that yet, but last I heard they hadn't fully disarmed yet. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot they can do until they lay down all their arms and fully surrender. Because it's what, a 20 or 21 point plan that they're going to go through, which it's going to take years. It's going to take years to roll out the entire rebuilding of Gaza. And meanwhile, you got tons of progressives that are still marching around, not just in the United States, but in countries all over the world, screaming free Gaza, which is hilarious. Free Palestine, free Gaza. All right, so Rep. John Larson, and I believe he is a Democrat. Yes, he is a Democrat. 1st District of Connecticut. President Obama signed the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell into law 15 years ago, ensuring gay and lesbian service members could openly serve their country. Every qualified American who wants to serve their country should be allowed to. We must end Trump's trans military ban. He got brutally ratioed. 127 likes, whoa, way over 1,000 comments for this. And I think the answer to that's obvious. I mean, what, so like all trans people are gay? I mean, look, a lot of people, if not most people, would say yeah. But that's not according to a lot of progressives. No, a lot of progressives, they say, no, trans men are men. Trans women are women. They're not gay. They are who they say they are. So I thought I'd read through a few of these. Like my guy said, wait, I thought trans women are women. Are you suggesting they aren't and they must be gay? So, Texas Gal, let's look at the facts that matter now. You should be more concerned about the overall well-being of our entire military. Since Pete Hegseth took his position, enrollment has increased. I think it's increased substantially. This is a good thing. This is what we voted for. And wow, she gets in a lot of info, a lot of data info. And so gay and lesbian service people are trans now? No, they aren't. That is what we call mission creep. If we can handle the standards, don't care. They must meet the physical and mental requirements to be armed. Trans is a mental disorder, and they are incapable of meeting the high standards of the greatest military in the world. Yeah, isn't it on the DSM-5? I thought that gender dysphoria was one of those DSM-5 mental health, like a certified diagnosis or whatever they call it. Yeah, Bud Light, I want to join. Dylan Mulvaney, that's who that is. Dylan Mulvaney. Yeah, I've almost got to the point where that news, the whole Bud Light fiasco was almost long enough ago to where I might be getting to that point where I might start forgetting Dylan Mulvaney's name. You know, whatever. That was kind of a wild time. I don't think that Bud Light still has recovered from that. They were the #1 most sold beer in America for, it was like 30 or 40 years. And I don't even know if they're even in the top 3 or top 4 anymore. Like, they fell a lot. They also lost a lot of shelf space across grocery stores all over America because of that fiasco. All right, beyond skeptical, the only way they are intertwined is Dems convincing little gay kids that they're trans and need to fit some new physical gender stereotype through medication and surgeries. Gay and trans are hugely different. Stop linking the two. And anyway, so I'm sure it's going to be a lot more of that. I'm not going to scroll too far because this is the X platform, and there might be certain memes down there that might be a little too hot for YouTube. So I'll just go ahead and move on to Lee Zelden. Working with our partners at DHS and CBP, the Trump Environmental Protection Agency has now stopped more than 200,000 pounds of illegal pesticides from entering our country through ports this year. We're accelerating investigations and enforcement on toxic and poisonous imports, including illegal pesticides and chemical smuggling. This will advance agricultural integrity, safeguard our communities, increase national security, and help make America healthy again. Learn more here on EPA.gov. EPA accelerates the crackdown on toxic and poisonous imports in concert with CBP, keeping Americans safe. And the EPA enforcement leadership joined CBP officials in Southern California for an imports inspection demonstration and tour of the Port of Los Angeles to reinforce coordination and information sharing. On Friday, December 19th, newly confirmed Assistant Administrator Jeffrey Hall, who oversees the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Office of Enforcement and Compliance Assurance, and his Principal Deputy Assistant Administrator Craig Pritzlaff, traveled to Southern California to accelerate law enforcement efforts to stop foreigners from profiting off sending poisons and pollution to the United States. Under the Trump administration, EPA is dramatically expanding its imports investigative capacity and enforcement scope beyond the limited efforts of previous years, launching broader investigations that target illegal pesticide and chemical smuggling operations across multiple sectors to safeguard communities. Also, agricultural integrity and national security. This stepped-up enforcement has led to the blocking of more than 200,000 pounds of illegal pesticide imports at ports across America this year. And it goes on from there. Got some images from in Los Angeles. And all right, so rolling on to the next, that will be linked in the description below. And this is from the White House. Breaking Santa's naughty list, the worst of the worst, lo-fi edition, no coal, just deportation. Last time I looked at this about an hour and a half ago, and it claimed to have still been live, and there was like 300,000 people who had watched it. Oh yeah, it is live. Okay. And what was that number? It was like 425,000 people are watching this. Where did that number go? 5 hours, 44 minutes, and counting. Yeah. Oh, okay. Here it is. 425,500 views. So the naughty list, criminal illegal aliens. Okay, so they're just names like Hamadou Diallo, murder, Kwang Sean Fawn, second-degree murder, Nicole Alexandra Contreras Suarez, stalking and R-word of a minor, Adolfo Ismael Enriquez Orozco, battery, human slavery. for trafficking and smuggling aliens. Another one, drug trafficking, human slavery, cruelty toward a child. Second, S, abuse of a minor, aggravated battery, predatory criminal, S, assault on a child, child abduction, domestic battery, violation of a protective order, S, assault of a victim less than 13 years of age, aggravated criminal, S, abuse of a child, domestic battery, driving under the influence, criminal, S, assault, aggravated kidnapping, and ransom. So yeah, these aren't the best and brightest that are being sent into the United States by any means at all. And no, this isn't representative of all the illegal immigrants out there. Of course it's not. However, a lot of illegal immigrants that came in here are extremely dangerous. A lot of them were already imprisoned, and they found themselves sprung from prison and sent up to the United States. Pretty similar to what happened in Cuba back in the early 80s. Emptied out all the prisons, sent them all up to Cuba, and then the movie Scarface happened. Okay, so that's going on. I will repost this if you want to check that out yourself. They're still playing it live. I'm not sure if that's going to be live for, it started 6 hours ago, so I'm not sure if that's going to play all the way through Christmas or not. Actually not familiar with how long that the X platform allows a live video to stream for. I honestly don't know. As far as I know, YouTube, it's indefinite. I think you can stream indefinitely. All right, so this comes from Donald J. Trump, his X account, and he says the Trump Kennedy Center Honors will be broadcast tonight on CBS and streamed on Paramount Plus. Tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern at the request of the board and just about everybody else in America. I am hosting the event. Tell me what you think of my Master of Ceremony abilities. If really good, would you like me to leave the presidency in order to make hosting a full-time job? We will be honoring true greats in the history of entertainment. Sylvester Stallone, Michael Crawford, Kiss, George Strait, and Gloria Gaynor. All right. So yeah, by the time you're seeing this episode, it's already a done deal. So not sure if anybody's restreamed it over here on YouTube. I imagine you could probably see it over here on YouTube. Maybe on I want to say it was on CBS, right? I think it's yeah on CBS. So this one from the Department of State. One of the great American exports is our culture and our talent. Secretary Rubio, who hosted the 2025 Trump Kennedy Center honorees at the State Department. President Trump is Master of Ceremonies for this year's awards, airing tonight on CBS.
It's an extraordinary honor to be here with all of you, to welcome you here to this room and to this place. One of the great American exports is our culture and our talent. In many cases, the first thing and people learn about our country is through our culture, through our entertainment. Be it our movies or our television or our music or our musicals or our bands or our actors. And so we are grateful and honored to be able to host this event tonight on the eve of tomorrow's ceremonies and tomorrow's celebration of this incredible American talent.
These exceptional individuals have spent their lives making the most of their incredible God-given talents. They have talent. They have talent. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. It's a great honor to have you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, American talent, entertainment, they entertain. And Senator Thom Tillis from 11 hours ago. This is really sad to hear. Shocked and heartbroken to hear this, Ben. You are a patriot and an even better person. I know you love your family more than anything, and Susan and I are keeping you all in our prayers. So Ben Sass said that he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And his message that he posted today reads as follows. This is a tough note to write, but since a bunch of you have started to suspect something, I'll cut to the chase. Last week, I was diagnosed with metastasized stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and I'm going to die. Advanced pancreatic is nasty stuff. It's a death sentence, but I already had a death sentence before last week, too. We all do. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's what Alex Trebek had. Of course, he was the host of Jeopardy. And I think Steve Jobs. Didn't Steve Jobs also have pancreatic cancer? So anyway, it goes on and says, I'm blessed with amazing siblings and half a dozen buddies that are genuinely brothers. As one of them put it, sure, you're on the clock, but we're all on the clock. Death is a wicked thief, and the bastard pursues us all. Still, I've got less time than I'd prefer. This is hard for someone wired to work and build, but harder still as a husband and a dad. I can't begin to describe how great my people are. During the past year, as we temporarily stepped back from public life and built new family rhythms, Melissa and I have grown even closer, and that on top of 3 decades of the best friend a man could ever have. 7 months ago, Corey was commissioned into the Air Force, and she's off at instrument and multi-engine rounds of flight school. Last week, Alex kicked butt, graduating from college a semester early, even while teaching Gen Chem, organic, and physics. She's a freak. This summer, 14-year-old Breck started learning to drive. Okay, we've been driving off book for 6 years, but now we've got paper to make it street legal. I couldn't be more grateful to constantly get to bear hug this motley crew of sinners and saints. There's not a good time to tell your peeps you're now marching to the beat of a faster drummer, but the season of Advent isn't the worst. As a Christian, the weeks running up to Christmas are a time to orient our hearts toward the hope of what's to come. Not an abstract hope in fanciful human goodness, but not hope in vague hallmark sappy spirituality, not a bootstrapped hope in our own strength. What foolishness is the evaporating muscle I once prided myself in. Nope. Often we lazily say hope when what we mean is optimism. To be clear, optimism is great and it's absolutely necessary, but it's insufficient. It's not the kind of thing that holds up when you tell your daughters you're not going to walk them down the aisle, nor telling your mom and pops they're going to bury their son. A well-lived life demands more reality, stiffer stuff. That's why during Advent, even while still walking in darkness, we shout our hope, often properly with a gravelly voice, soldering through tears. Such is the calling of the pilgrim. Those who know ourselves to need a physician should dang well look forward to enduring beauty and eventual fulfillment. That is, we hope in a real deliverer, a rescuing God, born at a real time in a real place. But the eternal city with foundations and without cancer is not yet. Remembering Isaiah's prophecies of what's to come doesn't dull the pain of current sufferings, but it does put it in eternity's perspective. Quote, when we've been there 10,000 years, we've no less days to sing God's praise. I'll have more to say. I'm not going down without a fight. One sub-part of God's grace is found in the jaw-dropping advances science has made in the past few years in immunotherapy and more. Death and dying aren't the same. The process of dying is still something to be lived. We're zealously embracing a lot of gallows humor in our house, and I've pledged to do my part to run through the irreverent tape. But for now, as our family faces the reality of treatments, but more importantly, as we celebrate Christmas, we wish you peace. Quote, the people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. For to us a son is given. And that's from Isaiah 9. With great gratitude and with gravelly but hopeful voices, Ben and the Sasses. So that was posted today at 10:12 in the morning. And yeah, it garnered a lot of views. There's a lot of fellow senators who have reposted this. So I grabbed that from Senator Thom Tillis. And very sad news. But like he said, they're advancing science extremely quickly. So, you know, he might have like a huge stroke of luck on his side. But I guess time will tell. And I'm sure he's got some pretty good connections. All right, so anyway, from the U.S. Department of Energy, President Trump has prevented the shutdown of enough energy for 11 million homes. This administration is working to unleash American energy dominance every day. This is going to be from the Washington Examiner. Do they paywall? I always forget. I don't know. I really should just make a list and put it on my monitor over here to the right. All right, anyway, Trump administration has prevented shutdown of enough energy for 11 million homes, Wright says. And that would be the Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. And so the Trump admin has prevented the closure of more than 15 gigawatts worth of energy capacity within its first year, said Chris Wright, the Secretary of Energy, on Wednesday, as part of its effort to keep coal connected to the grid and reverse the Biden administration's attempt to phase out fossil fuels. So effing psychotic. 1 gigawatt is roughly equivalent to the amount of electricity needed to power approximately 750,000 homes. The Department of Energy has, it is paywall me, The Department of Energy has led the effort to keep these facilities online with the goal of bringing down electricity prices for Americans, Wright said during a visit to the former 3 Mile Island nuclear facility in Pennsylvania. The nuclear plant, which has been renamed the Crane Clean Energy Center, is scheduled to return online by summer of 2027, generating more than 800 megawatts of power. Wright pointed to the power facility as an example of one that was closed prematurely due to political pressure. Clean Energy Energy Secretary Chris Wright speaks at the Crane Clean Energy Center. Okay, in Londonderry. Okay, so anyway, that it looks like that opens up another article. So that's the latest, and definitely a good thing that we're returning energy. Just the thought that they were going to phase out all fossil fuels is just beyond psychotic. They would plunge us into the dark ages again because wind and solar ain't going to do it, dude. You cannot run the country on batteries. That is psychotic and retarded. All right, so Taylor Rogers from 8 hours ago. And let's see, Taylor Rogers with the White House. Yep, White House Assistant Press Secretary. She says gas prices in red states like Texas are below $2.50 because of President Trump's drill baby drill agenda. Unfortunately, Californians are still paying $4.30 a gallon. Gavin Newsom, it's well past time to abandon your green energy scam policies and embrace the Trump approach. Yeah, you think that's happening? Ain't a chance. Okay, so Secretary Doug Burgum, he's the Secretary of the Interior. Offshore wind is a giant ripoff for every American consumer. Here's what $34 billion is buying and what it could have bought instead. Well, let's take a quick look. Consumers are being forced to spend $34 billion on 5 offshore wind projects that will only generate half of their total power capacity because wind doesn't blow 24/7. And for the same $34 billion, New England states of Virginia could have 15 gigawatts of reliable, clean burning natural gas and still have enough money remaining to fully fund the Constitution natural gas pipeline. The Constitution pipeline would provide the U.S. gas to the Northeast, which currently imports foreign gas and dirty foreign heating oil to heat homes. This is a national security issue. President Trump wants all Americans to have access to affordable, reliable U.S. energy. Offshore wind is not the answer. Because of this, you pay radically different energy prices. To heat a home by just 1 degree, it'll cost $5 in Texas, $10 in Europe, but $20 in Boston. It's twice as expensive to heat a home in New England, the birthplace of the American Revolution, than in Europe during a Russian invasion. Secretary Doug Burgum finishes off with, offshore wind is an expensive, bad deal. It's forcing Americans to pay billions for less power while better options are ignored. Offshore wind isn't just a bad deal, it's a scam. And you are paying for it. Yes, it's always been a scam. It's been a scam since day one. Absolute ripoff. And fortunately, they're getting us back onto the nuclear platform, which is going to be great. Small modular nuclear reactors. I mention that all the time on the Swamp. I think that is going to be revolutionary. It's amazing that they're going to be building small nuclear reactors off of a freaking assembly line. Multiple different assembly lines. They've got more than one factory that they're building right now to build these modular reactors, and they can ship them by semi-truck to locations. And each one of those things, they can power hundreds of thousands of homes. It's absolutely amazing. They've already broken ground on it, on the facility. All right, so this is another one from Secretary Burgum. Offshore wind will drive up electricity prices in the Northeast. As one example, the Empire Wind Project off the coast of New York is charging New Yorkers over 2 times the local grid price for their energy. The Green New Scam is not just a waste of money on weather-dependent projects. It's a con job forced upon the American people. Amen. This comes from the U.S. Department of Education. On the 11th day of Christmas, Trump McMahon gave to thee a new Section 11.7 reporting portal to monitor foreign dollars in our nation's campuses. Monitor foreign dollars on our nation's campuses. Yep, definitely a good thing. They should be doing that because we shouldn't be allowing our public education systems to take Chinese money in exchange of what? Of favors involving what? That we teach them, our students, what, CCP propaganda or some shit? Or nudge them toward using things like Temu and TikTok and all this brain dead consumerism and brainwashing nonsense that the Chinese created. Okay, so anyway, ready, Gov, stay safe this holiday season with these winter-ready tips.
FEMA wants you to be safe this holiday season. Here is some winter weather wisdom.
And some movie clips.
Use caution when decorating. Keep heaters at least 3 feet from anything that can catch fire. Be sure to water your Christmas tree every day. Salt your pathways and sidewalks. Remember that you should not use your oven to heat your home. Temperatures can get cold. Bundle up. And check on your neighbors.
Hey, that's not a Christmas movie.
Slow down on icy roads.
It's one of my favorites. I never miss Christmas Vacation. That's my Christmas movie. What's your Christmas movie? You should put it in the comments. I'll take a look at it. Anyway, yeah. So, I mean, I got a few. Jingle All the Way is another one that my daughter and I, we've been watching that every year for like probably 10, 15 years now. But yeah, Christmas Vacation is the big one. And of course, A Christmas Story. Can't miss that one either. But yeah, most of those tips, they're not going to pertain to me personally because I live in Florida, so I don't have to worry about ice and heaters generally. Even though I do have central heat, that is kind of nice because it does get a bit chilly in Tampa Bay sometimes. All right, so anyway, moving on to BLS labor statistics. The airline fares, they've decreased 5.4% over the year, ending in November of 2025. So that's a good thing. You know, airline fares, they've dropped a little bit over 5%. Definitely a good thing. Car and truck rental, same thing. And other intercity transportation, of course, electricity's shooting up, probably because the whole renewable energy scam bullshit from the Biden administration. They were still rolling all that crap out when Trump took over earlier this year. Okay, so John Ratcliffe wishing CIA officers and their families and the nation a joyous Christmas season. So this is from the CIA.
Hi everyone, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. As 2025 draws to a close, I wanted to express my deep appreciation for your exceptional work and inspiring commitment to mission. As we ring in 2026, we must renew our pledge to remain laser-focused on carrying out our critically important mission. With my wife Michelle and my daughters Riley and Darby, I wish you a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Well, what mission would that be, Mr. CIA? Well, it depends on which administration that we're serving under. Are they the Democrats or the Republicans? Okay, U.S. Marshals Service from earlier today. Stephanie Creasy selected as U.S. Marshals Service Deputy Director. So they've got a new service deputy director. And there she is. That is, oh wait, what was her name again? Stephanie Creasy. That's Stephanie Creasy. She's now the new deputy director. And there you have it. I'm not going to get into the details because, you know, it's probably somewhat of a boring read, but it'll be linked if you want to check it out. United States Strategic Command Readiness Recap, May of 2025. Strategic air powers soared high over Florida's coastline, putting the workhorse B-52H Stratofortress and low observable B-2 Spirit on full display. Hashtag Nuclear Triad. Nuclear Triad bombers are versatile, capable of delivering long-range strike capabilities anytime, anywhere. Check that image out, man. That is badass. I think just as far as size goes, I'm going to go off on a limb and say that the B-2 is a lot closer to the camera than the Stratofortress because the Stratofortress is an enormous plane. I mean, the B-2 is still a pretty big plane, though, too. But that's awesome that they got them side by side like that. And honestly, not sure where that is. It doesn't look like my area. I'm actually hoping that it's not because that would really suck to have had the opportunity to see that in the air and not got to see it. But yeah, man, very cool. All right, 25th Infantry Division, Tropic Lightning Week 2025. 4 days of competition, leadership, and pride rooted in a legacy that continues to shape today's soldiers. The Guadalcanal Cup was earned, but unity defined the week. So let's take a look at this video.
Fire. on the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that on other fields and other days will bring forth victory.
That is why we compete. And many of these fields probably didn't feel very friendly, but that's because that's the warrior ethos and spirit that we kindle and have for generations as we prepare to fight and win our nation's wars. And those that have gone before us expect us to sharpen ourselves. We sharpen ourselves on these fields so that we're prepared to deploy from here.
Today we're doing the Tropic Plane Week marksmanship competition. Consists of 4-person teams shooting rifles, pistols, and the XM250. So doing different drills for that, and then ending it with a modified BPAT into a stress shoot.
To be competitive is just to have that inner spirit, that inner drive that keeps you going. There's competitiveness in everything we do. It's just striving to be the best. For the Spirit de Corps, for the legacy, to start off with those before us, right? We just want to try to emulate their sacrifice and their courage. The 25th has a rich history. We're the only unit and the only division in the entire United States Army that has stayed in the same location as where we were founded. We have multiple Medal of Honor recipients, so we just try to honor their legacy every single day by being the best versions of ourselves.
I'm proud of each and every one of you. I'm proud of this amazing division. Your history that we've written, we will tell another story. We are prepared to write another story. You are the ones who will create that. That patch on your left shoulder, it signifies years of history, nearly a century. And that is your legacy, that is our legacy.
Hell yeah, man. Very cool. 25th Infantry. And we'll roll on to the National Guard from 10 hours ago when a cruise ship more than 100 miles off the coast called for help for an unresponsive passenger. The California National Guard airmen flew through thick fog and severe conditions to reach the ship, stabilize the patient, and bring her safely to medical care on shore. And scooch that over. And here's a few images that they took from or of the cruise ship. Of course, there's fog. And let's take a quick look at this. So California Guard's 129th Rescue Wing hoists woman from a cruise ship. And this was December 19th, so it was just last Friday. So a 79-year-old cruise ship passenger found unresponsive December 16th is back on land following a high-risk overnight rescue by California Air National Guard's 129th Rescue Wing. So very cool. Braved the dangerous conditions, and they brought her back to land for medical care. And hopefully she's doing all right. And we got this Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. The Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope was completely assembled at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center last month, moving us one step closer to revolutionizing our understanding of the universe with its deep, crisp, sweeping infrared views of space. And they accidentally left the second D out of there. That's why that handle's not complete. But anyway, they've got a video here, so we'll take a look at this clip. Yep, looking wider. Widening the gaze. Sharper images. Definitely going to hope and pray that that mission is successful, that nothing happens when it launches and everything goes to plan. I was like holding my breath, crossing my fingers with the James Webb Space Telescope. I waited like 10 years for them to finally launch that and to get those images back. And it's still just absolutely just stunning with every image that it takes. Yeah, the same with the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. I mean, if it's legit when it says that in a year it's going to take like basically 1,000 years worth of imagery, because of how like I'm sure it's probably got thousands of megapixels worth of imaging technology. Yeah, it's going to take images that scientists, they're going to be probably pouring over that data. I mean, well, hell, it could be going on hundreds of years, but we've got AI, which could probably pour through all of that data much quicker. So they could probably infuse those two technologies together, and maybe they could really start unlocking all kinds of stuff about the universe that we're not aware of just yet. All right, so Bethany Stevens, I think this is the last thing. Yep, last video. Ending the year with momentum across NASA. NASA Artemis II countdown test. The space station Crew 12 astronauts are announced. The Sentinel-6B delivers data on Earth's oceans. And Caruthers Observatory reveals UV views of the Earth and the Moon. And after this, we're off to 2026.
As we say goodbye to 2025, we're already looking ahead here at NASA, with progress on lunar missions, new crews preparing for orbit, and fresh views of Earth from space. Here's what's happening in this week's NASA Minute. Progress towards next year's mission around the Moon is continuing as teams at the Kennedy Space Center conducted the first part of a countdown demonstration test for Artemis II. The launch team and the mission's 4 astronauts practiced launch day activities, including the crew suiting up and loading into the Orion spacecraft on top of the SLS rocket inside the vehicle assembly building. The second part of the countdown test will take place in the coming weeks after SLS and Orion roll out to the launch pad. We're excited to announce the 4 crew members who will fly aboard NASA's SpaceX Crew 12 mission to the International Space Station. Launching no earlier than February 15th, 2026, the international crew representing 3 space agencies will begin a long-duration science expedition aboard the orbiting laboratory. NASA astronauts Jessica Meir and Jack Hathaway will serve as mission commander and pilot, joined by mission specialists from ESA and Roscosmos. Once on orbit, Crew 12 will join Expedition 74 to carry out scientific research and technology demonstrations that help prepare humans for future missions to the Moon and Mars. NASA's new ocean-observing satellite, Sentinel-6B, has begun returning its first observations of sea levels from space. Launched last month, the satellite is on its way to providing ultra-precise measurements of ocean height across vast stretches of the Atlantic, tracking the rise and fall of the seas with
it might be able to figure out the rogue wave issue.
Once fully calibrated next year, Sentinel-6B will deliver data that will help ship crews navigate safer routes, improve weather and marine forecasts, support national security, and give coastal communities better tools to prepare for flooding and storm impacts. From the seas to the skies to the great unknown, NASA is improving global safety. NASA's Caruthers Geocorona Observatory has returned its first images from space, capturing rare ultraviolet views of Earth and the Moon that confirm the spacecraft is healthy and ready for its primary mission. These first light images show both broad ultraviolet light and the faint glow of Earth's geocorona, the outermost layer of our atmosphere that extends far into space. By studying this ultraviolet halo, scientists will gain new insight into how Earth's atmosphere interacts with the sun's energy and space weather, information that helps protect satellites, communication systems, and future crews traveling beyond low Earth orbit. From low Earth orbit to the Moon and beyond, NASA's work has set the stage for a historic year ahead. Thanks for watching the NASA Minute. Happy New Year!
All right, man. Awesome. There you go. And that's going to do it for this episode. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be dropping a new show every evening, Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone in it, the politicians, the bureaucrats, and the agencies. And also, I post the daily episodes over on X also, so feel free to comment there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.